Welcome to the next installment of Law & Order, the video series where I look at and unpack stories from games. In this one, we'll be looking at a horror game based on and steeped in Thai folklore and mythology, Home Sweet Home. If you haven't played this game, just be warned that there will be spoilers in this video. This game is actually one of the few that I had to take a break from playing because it legitimately scared me, much more so than Outlast or Visage. As usual, we'll begin by discussing the plot as it happens in the game, and then we'll dive further into the finer details of what's going on. Now, there is a second episode to this game, but this video will just cover episode 1, with the video for episode 2 coming at a later date. But before we jump in, a quick message from the sponsor of today's video, AtlasVPN, who are currently running a huge discount and are offering a 3-year subscription for just $1.99 per month. That's a colossal saving of 82%. With over 750 servers around the world, connection to AtlasVPN servers is incredibly stable and lightning fast, which means if you're a gamer playing multiplayer horror titles such as Dead by Daylight, Devour or Phasmophobia, there'll be absolutely no lag. As well as that benefit, you'll also be safe from things like being DDoSed or even things like avoiding a lobby full of bots. Hey, you can even use it to bypass IP bans. Of course, it's not just used for gaming. As a sports fan myself, living in the UK is extremely difficult for watching any US sports. So I just hop onto AtlasVPN, fire up whatever US-based streaming service I use, and boom, I can watch NBA, NFL, or MLB. You can use it on multiple devices, and AtlasVPN can also block any malicious links, ads, and trackers, and it also notifies you if and when someone is trying to steal your data. As mentioned before, this massive discount is for 3 years of AtlasVPN, which works out to only $1.99 per month. Not only that, but you also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, this offer is only available for the next 30 days, so make sure you take up this offer by clicking in the link in the description below or looking for the pinned link in the comments section. All that being said, let's get into the video. A man called Tim is sleeping and hears the voice of his wife Jane telling him that he has to get up. He wakes up hungover from a heavy night of drinking and is confused to find himself in an unfamiliar location. Trying to find his way home, Tim walks through the very empty building. Upon opening a door, he sees someone. It's a young woman, and he goes after her to ask for help, but she's gone. It's as if she's completely vanished. Tim's journey through the building gets stranger and stranger, with trails of blood and bloody footprints seeming to guide him somewhere. He discovers the young woman, and, well, she's not friendly at all.
What the fuck?
Tim hides in the locker and the woman disappears through a bloodstain on the wall. It's clear that she's some sort of entity or ghost. After some more cat and mouse involving this ghost girl, Tim comes to a long hallway and is chased, arriving at a small hatch which bizarrely takes him back to the home he shares with his wife Jane. Tim assumes that this was just a bad dream and listens to a voicemail from his concerned best friend, Du. Seems from the state of this house that Tim did indeed have a heavy night. That much was true. And the reason behind his nightmare was that his wife Jane had actually gone missing in May of 2013, which explains Tim's decline. After exploring the home and finding some of Jane's diary pages, Tim finds the small hatch under the stairs to be a dark void. He hears Jane's screams, so he enters. He finds himself back in the mysterious building from his nightmare, which leads to a strange dark wooden house. A house which was mentioned in Jane's diary. Dogs howl in the distance, which is an indication of something sinister being outside. Tim encounters strange creatures, and at one point, when travelling through the wooden house, Tim discovers exactly why the dogs were howling. A massive claw smashes through the window. Encountering more of the strange creatures, Tim makes his way through a crawl space and ends up back in the building from before again. Tim meets the creature who the massive claw belonged to. This humongous thing is a spirit called a Preta. Avoiding the gaze of the spirit, Tim ends up in a police station and hears Jane scream again. Tim sees more of the strange creatures and manages to pass through the police station. He sees Jane running away in the distance. After using a crane to lift a solid block of concrete out the way and after evading the Preta once more, he's transported to a wooden hallway. Tim sees Jane, and it seems the Preta isn't done yet, as it seems to attack Jane, who escapes and is looking for Tim. Tim must provide some bread along with incense in order to keep the spirit at bay. After doing so, Tim escapes and goes after Jane, only to end up back at home again. This time the apartment is considerably different. It's very untidy and all the lights are off. Trying to find a way back to the strange otherworldly place again to help Jane, Tim manages this after entering the bathroom and sinking through a puddle of blood and back into the weird building again. He sees Jane running away, again, and goes after her only to run into the blood-stained ghost girl from before. Tim retreats to a locker and, you guessed it, he's transported to another location, a school building. He sees Jane legging it once more and has to pass through the school whilst avoiding the ghost girl. At some point, Tim eventually sees Jane go through a set of doors, which get sealed with red string. Tim has to travel between 3 different realms and blow out a candle in order to dissolve the string which is blocking the door. Whilst attempting this, Tim comes across a bottle of holy water, which he discovers he can use to temporarily repel the ghost girl. He does this, eventually, and upon entering the doors into what is described as a multi-purpose room, Tim finds another bottle of holy water along with a ritualistic setup. The exit for the room is blocked by a twisted piece of rebar, so Tim uses a hacksaw to try and get through it. It would never be that simple though, as Tim is still being pursued by the ghost girl, armed with her trusty box cutter. Tim is able to keep her at bay with the holy water, and he is eventually able to saw through and escape the room. She isn't far behind though, and she chases Tim back into the school. But she sees the hanging body of her lover. Their love is a twisted story, but we'll get to that. She drops to her knees and cries, and Tim is finally able to escape the school. After walking across what seems to be an extremely long bridge and finding one of Jane's diary pages mentioning a dagger, Tim arrives back at home once again. He finds the box exactly where Jane said she'd stashed the dagger. The point of view now switches to Jane, who is walking through a wooden building. It's pitch black and Jane only has a candle to light her way. With her dagger raised, she tries to navigate the corridors. Eventually, she's cornered by a woman dressed in traditional Thai clothing, and the game then ends. Okay, so that's the dumbed down version of the plot and what we as the player see. So now we'll go through the various notes and items in the game in order to piece together the story. We now need to look into the events which led to the disappearance of Tim's wife Jane. Although there is a direct reason for why all this was happening to her, we won't discuss this until episode 2's video. You have to wait to find out exactly why this was happening to Jane. But anyway, from what we can see, Jane and Tim were a happy couple. They had got married the previous year, but in October of 2012, Tim had managed to buy them a house. He had, according to Jane, worked hard and saved up for it. All was going really well. Tim had got a promotion in his job, and although Jane was struggling to find success in her writing career, the couple was still upbeat and positive. However, tensions start around a month later when Tim, due to his promotion, is spending more and more time at work, leading to Jane becoming paranoid that he may be having an affair. Jane notes a picture of Tim and his best friend Du. More tension a few weeks later as Tim continued to devote all of his time to his job, promising that next year he would be able to work more flexible hours. They weren't talking as much, but Jane notes Tim being as someone who always listened to her. A couple of months go by, and on 15th of April 2013, Jane conveys her annoyance at Tim even working on his days off. Tim is breaking promises he'd made to Jane left, right and centre, and she started to think that it was maybe something that she'd done. Over the next week, this is when spooky things start happening. The picture of Jane and Tim keeps falling face down, and Jane starts to think that it could mean bad luck. One evening, alone in the house, because Tim is, working, she wakes up hearing noises downstairs, but there was no one there. Over the next few days, on April 25th, it's clear that Jane is falling apart mentally. She's super stressed, she's forgetting things, and she's hearing creepy prayers through the TV. She also thinks that she's seeing something strange in their house. 3 days pass and it hasn't got any better. Jane is still seeing things in the house and feels like something is watching her. She notes the area around the cupboard under the stairs feeling particularly creepy. She mentions that her and Tim don't really hang out anymore, and that they should do things together and try to create good karma in their relationship. The following day, Jane has a nightmare. She dreamt that she was being chased all night long. It seems that Jane is slowly losing her grip. On May 2nd, 2013, Jane indicates that something evil is going on. She continues to have nightmares, one involving a Preta, but she manages to wake up. She tries to take some sleeping pills. She then complains about hearing rats inside the cupboard under the stairs. Just over a week later, on May 10th, Jane had had enough. She thinks there's something up with their house, so she confronts Tim. She tries to tell him about the things that are happening to her, but Tim doesn't buy it. He dismisses her concerns, so the next day Jane goes to see a monk at the forest temple. He said he couldn't help her due to wanting to keep his good karma, which made Jane sad. but the monk did put her in touch with a novice, who presented her with the knife for her protection, but it was not meant to be used to harm. And then the last diary we see from Jane is from her the following day, and she is determined to do something all by herself. I'm guessing that Jane went after the spirits which were tormenting her to try and end it all. Then Tim reports Jane missing after finding her room ransacked, believing there to have been an assault. Tim then gets drunk, falls asleep, leading us into the events of the game. Let's now move on to the first antagonist we face in the game. We encounter her early on in the game and her name is Belle. Well, Thai names are really long in general, but Belle is her nickname, so we'll just call her that. In 1996, Belle was attending university and was an art student. All was fine at first, but something was bubbling under the surface. You see, Belle had a huge crush, nay, an obsession with a guy at the school called Shane. She was infatuated. One problem: Shane already had a girlfriend called Cherry. Shane and Cherry both studied science, so they spent a lot of time together. Cherry would even set up a darkroom in her dorm and develop photos of them both. They seemed happy together. But instead of trying to win Shane's heart the old-fashioned way and break them up, she turned to something a lot more sinister. Belle turned to curses, or jinxes, two in fact. A cursed nails jinx and a lechery jinx. Now, as we can see from this document, these jinxes were no joke and should only be performed by professional and skilled casters. The lechery jinx, which can make people fall in love, would be made from two dolls which were made of clay from a graveyard. They would then be tied together and placed under the pillow of the target, which would be poor Shane. For the cursed nails jinx, well, it's exactly as rough as it sounds. When placed upon someone, it can make someone suffer from nails piercing through their stomach. All Belle needed was some nails and hair of the target. The target is fairly obvious: Cherry. Anyway, Belle decided that the lechery jinx should be done by a professional, so she went to a skilled caster, judging from this note here, which shows that she gave the caster some of Shane's hair and nails, and the jinx was cast. Now, Belle cast the cursed nails jinx herself, and it actually worked. Belle made a doll and drove nails through it, and the doll had a picture of Cherry's face on it. Cherry started to feel ill, and not only that, she also noticed a change in Shane. After doing some investigation, she realised that she and Shane had both been cursed. She wrote a letter to Shane's parents explaining her suspicions, and then Cherry sought out a novice monk who stopped the jinx, judging by this photo here. Now, this is where the fate of Belle comes in. The cursed nails jinx states that should the victim become aware of the jinx, then the jinx shall transfer back to the caster, and the suffering will increase significantly and can result in death. Belle then, according to this newspaper at the start of the game, shows us that she disappeared, with the last time she was seen being around the 26th of September 1996. But back to poor old Shane. Now that Shane was completely infatuated with Belle due to the lechery jinx, Shane was changing. In the second part of the lechery jinx leaflet, we can see exactly why that is. Remember I said that the two clay dolls were made using clay from a graveyard? Well, being that it's graveyard clay, there's a spirit attached to said clay. This spirit would then pass into Shane while he slept, given that the doll was under his pillow, and would slowly take over him. Shane's change in personality was noted by his parents, who on 14th of September 1996 wrote a letter to his academic advisor saying that Shane is experiencing hallucinations caused by stress. They sign him off on extended leave. Belle was still missing, but on the 3rd of October her body was found in the multi-purpose room. This room was locked and not in use, so no one went in there, but Belle was discovered after someone was complaining about the smell coming from behind the door. They found her still wearing her uniform, covered in blood. Then, due to Shane being infatuated with Belle, or rather due to the lechery jinx and the spirit inside his body, and learning of her death, he penned a suicide note to his parents saying that he can't go on without Belle. Shane then took his own life. The school covered up the suicide as a hoax. After the discovery of Belle, they couldn't handle another death on school grounds. Belle then, in a haunted version of the school, would roam the halls as a vengeful spirit, vomiting up blood and nails. She would essentially try to retrace her steps, trying to find Shane. After her mini boss fight in the room where she died, Belle chases Tim and she comes across Shane's body, and she is forced to come to terms with what she did. So that's Belle's story, but we've got one more to dive into. So let's talk about this huge spirit called a Preta. A Preta, according to Thai mythology, is a ghost widely known throughout Buddhism, Hinduism, and other related religions. It is a ghost which suffers with eternal hunger and thirst. You would have had to have done something pretty bad to experience rebirth as a Preta. Now, thankfully, this game gives us some great backstory behind this particular spirit. In the second chapter of the game, we can hear some radio reports detailing a motorcycle gang who in 2002 were notorious for robberies and assaults. The gang's leader was a man named Pichai Manapaiboon, or Tay, we'll just call him Tay. Anyways, Tim, we end up visiting Tay's mother's home deep in the countryside. Tim finds writing on the wall stating, "I'll return, I'll get what belongs to me." Very ominous. True to his word, Tay and his biker gang broke into Tay's mother Chinda's home. She was there and was badly wounded by 3 members of the gang, one of whom was her son Tay. Chinda was taken to hospital unconscious. Months later, and still being hunted by police, Tay was involved in yet another robbery and a police chase took place. Tay, separated from the rest of his gang members, had a crash and a pole impaled his skull straight through his left eye. He was then pronounced dead at the scene. Now that Tay was dead, what would happen to his spirit? Well, in Thai culture, showing respect to your parents is a massive deal. Thai people in general are largely superstitious, and these superstitions are woven deep into their culture. One of the main reasons someone would be rebirthed as a Preta would be, according to this Preta insight in the game, committing deadly sins, and this would result in becoming a Preta. Thai belief was that harming your parents would result in your direct rebirth as a Preta. So this large skulking ghost is the spirit of Tay. Pretas have a mouth as small as a pinhole, hindering their ability to eat, which explains their eternal hunger, and also this particular Preta has its left eye missing. There is a deeper explanation for this, and when Tim is in Tay's mother's home, a large tree was chopped down and used as a pillar to build the home. This was an ancient Thai custom to build houses, and if the tree leaks sap, that is an indication that a spirit lived inside the tree prior to it being cut down, and the tree leaking sap would therefore bring misfortune. This is potentially why this happened to this family. Now, there were smaller versions of Preta in the game which helped Belle by spying, and there's also these things. They were pretty creepy, sneaking up on Tim whilst he was walking. He even interrupted an angry ghost taking a dump as well. But these were likely just spirits or trapped souls who roam about. But that's pretty much it for episode 1 of Home Sweet Home. Episode 2 explains exactly why Jane had been targeted, as well as Tim himself. Not only that, but it's all part of a wider plot which involves Belle, Tay, and the man named in Belle's note, Chai, as well. Now, there are reasons that we'll unpack and discuss in the video for Home Sweet Home episode 2, which, as discussed earlier, will be coming soon. That video will explain who the mysterious Thai lady was that dragged Jane into the darkness. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, but for now, take care and I'll see you in the next one.